We will start with the last part of this chapter, plant kingdom, angiosperms. Angiosperms are also called as the flowering plants, and in this lesson we will learn the general characteristics of angiosperms, their reproduction, their classification and their importance, economic importance. The angiosperms are the plants that produce flowers, fruits and seeds, and they have their ovules enclosed in an ovary. It means that their ovules are enclosed in the ovary, means that they are the plants in which the seeds are present inside the fruit. So the word angion means container and the sperma means seeds. This is the largest and most diverse group in kingdom Plantae, with 68 orders, 416 families and 13,164 known genera and about 4 lakh species, and make up about 90% of all plant species on earth. The advantages of the flowering plants which have led to their success is that the pollination of the flowers occur by animals, bees, in exchange of nectar. Then they have encased their seeds in the fruit, so seeds are protected, okay, and they get extra nourishment also. Another thing is that they produce flowers and fruits to aid in seed dispersal. That means their seeds are dispersed far and wide, so their varieties and their angiosperms are increasing, are able to survive. They can produce spores which are more stable than seeds from gymnosperms. Okay, so that means their seeds or their spores are more stable. Then most important, they have vessels that can escalate their growth. That means they have xylem vessels along with the tracheates. Then there is a difference between angiosperms and gymnosperms. Angiosperms are seed producing, gymnosperms are seed producing non-flowering plants whose seeds are naked. Okay, angiosperms are enclosed in the ovary. Then the seeds are enclosed inside the ovary, and in gymnosperms they are bare. The life cycle is seasonal and gymnosperms are evergreen. Leaves are flat. In gymnosperms they are scaly leaves and needle-like leaves. The angiosperms mostly rely on animals for reproduction, and gymnosperms rely on wind. The uses of angiosperms are varied uses, but gymnosperms are used for paper, timber, etc. The angiosperms are mostly terrestrial, only a few are aquatic. You can see here the terrestrial ones and the aquatic ones, which we call as mangroves also. General characteristics are freshwater. The habitat includes freshwater plants. Freshwater means those which rivers and ponds. Mesophytes, that means on the land, plains. Xerophytes are those in the desert region. Succulents are those which have a swollen stem, swollen leaves. Those are called succulent. Okay, then general characteristics here, lithophytes are those which grow on rocks. Halophytes, they grow on I think icy. Then psammophytes on sandy area, and some may be found in marshy like rhizophora. Marshy are the mangroves. You can see the picture here this side. These are the mangroves. These are the mangroves. Then the habitat of the flowering plants can be determined by its height, duration and nature of stem. They are herbs, shrubs and trees. Then the angiosperms have their body divided into two parts, the root system and the shoot system. You can see the part which is above the land is called the shoot, and the part below the land is the root. It helps in anchoring the plant. Then the types of root that are found are taproot system, fibrous root system and adventitious root system. In the taproot system there is a single main root. In the fibrous root there are many main roots. In adventitious roots, those roots which arise from parts other than the radicle of the seed are called adventitious roots, You must have seen in the banyan tree that the roots arise from the stem towards the ground. That's a part of prop roots. Those are the parts and type of adventitious root. Then the leaves. What type of leaves do they have? The leaves are either having parallel venation or reticulate venation. Parallel venation, in which the veins are arranged parallel to each other. In reticulate, the veins are arranged in a net-like like a net. Okay, then the angiosperms are mostly autotrophic. Some are heterotrophic. Heterotrophic may be saprophytes, parasites, insectivorous or symbionts. We know what are saprophytes, parasites, insectivorous, and symbionts are those which grow along with some other organism. Here the picture comes, Archaeothobium americanum. then insectivorous, ventricosa, and venous flytrap. The three types of germinations are hypogeal, epigeal, and viviparous. Hypogeal germination means the cotyledons move up. Okay, so cotyledons go up, and the epigeal germination, the cotyledons remain inside the ground. Okay, and in viviparous germination, the seeds or the plant grows from different parts of the plant, other parts. Then reproduction in angiosperms, it involves the production of male and female gametes. So that is the reproduction. Obviously it occurs by the transfer of the male gamete to the female ovule by pollination. So here pollination aids in transfer of male gamete to the female gamete. Now unlike bryophytes and seedless vascular plants, angiosperms and gymnosperms have larger photosynthetic and dominant sporophyte. That means the plant body is a very large one. Okay, and it bears ovules, and these ovules are encased in the fruits. Then description of the typical flower, that it contains, the flower part has many four holes. Holes means groups of various organs. So this flower is an organ. Then gynoecium, first is calyx. Calyx is the part which we see which protects the flower. Corolla is a colorful part of the flower. You can see here the petals. Then androeciums are those which are the male part, stamens. Okay, and gynoecium is a group of carpels. Okay, it is called gynoecium. So the calyx is composed of green leafy structures called sepals. It protects the inner part of the flower. Corolla is composed of petals which is brightly colored, and it attracts insects. Calyx and corolla are called perianth together. Now the androecium is the third part of the flower. It contains a male reproductive structure. It has stamens with anthers on them. Okay, anthers are the microsporangia. Gynoecium is the innermost part of the flower. It is the female part of the flower, and it contains the female reproductive components. It is divided into, the gynoecium is divided into stigma, style, and ovary. You know this all, we have read it in class 10. Then the reproductive content is that a flower may be complete or incomplete. A complete flower is called bisexual, which contains both stamens and pistil. Okay, a unisexual flower contains either stamen or pistil. So accordingly it is named as staminate or carpellate. Then unisexual flowers are of two types, monoecious and dioecious. Monoecious are those in which both staminate and carpellate flowers are born in the same plant. Dioecious plants are those in which staminate plant is different, carpellate flowers are in different plant. Okay, so then development of ovum. In the ovum, the ovule develops inside the ovary. Okay, it has three main parts. The ovary has integument, the nucellus, the female gametophyte. So the ovary contains, the integuments are the outermost. So this is the ovule. It contains outermost structure, integument. Inside that nucellus, which is the cytoplasm type, you can say, and megasporophyte or the female gametophyte is present in the center. The integument is a protective cell layer. The nucellus forms part of the inner structure of the ovule, forming a layer of diploid cells inside the integument. Okay, so inner structure of the ovule. The female gametophyte is a megagametophyte, which is also called as a embryo, which can also be termed as an embryo sac. Now this embryo sac contains these many type of nuclei. Out of this yellow colored one is the egg cell, and this is the yellow one is the egg cell. Around it synergids, polar nuclei, antipodals. This all I have told you in class 10. Then development of pollen grains in the anther. The stamen is a male reproductive organ. It bears microsporangia or the anther. This anther bears microspores or the pollen grains. So pollen grains are transferred from one plant to the other, from one flower to the other. Usually anthers are bilobed and contain 4 pollen sacs. You can see here there are 4 pollen sacs. Inside each pollen sac, pollen grains are produced. Then we will talk about this is how they are developed. These pollen grains, the microsporophyte or the pollen grains undergo microsporophyte undergoes meiosis, and microspores or pollens are produced, and each of them contains one nucleus and 2 sperm cells. Okay, generative cells will divide to form 2 sperm cells. Then megasporophyte contains only 1 megaspore, and it will develop later on. This the pollens, the egg cell or the sac, okay, will develop into these 3 antipodal cells, one central with 2 polar nuclei, one egg cell and two synergids. The embryo sac will develop into. Then the reproduction occurs by pollination. Pollination may be self-pollinated or cross-pollinated. Self-pollinated are those in which the pollination occurs inside the in the same flower or in the same plant. Cross-pollination occurs between two plants of two different flowers. Then agents of pollination are abiotic and biotic agents. Abiotic are wind and water. Biotic are the animals and insects. Now, agents of pollination, abiotic are an anemophily, that is by wind, hydrophily by water. Examples: grasses, palms, Hydrilla vallisneria. Then biotic agents, entomophily by insects, ornithophily by ornithophily by birds, and chiropterophily by bats. Pollination can also occur by lemur, gecko, and rodents. Then the life cycle you can see here, the plant is the main sporophyte. The plant is the main sporophyte. On this, the sporophyte flower is born. This flower contains the female part and the male part. The male part contains the anther. These anthers have many microsporangium which undergo meiosis, and microspores are formed. These microspores are actually the pollen grains. The ovary will develop and it will form the ovule. This ovule contains the egg cell. This egg cell is fertilized after pollination by the pollen grain through a pollen tube. Okay, the pollen grain contains the gametes and this enter into the pollen tube. Enter into the egg cell, and a zygote is formed. This zygote will develop into embryo and then a new plant is formed. So this is the life cycle of an angiosperm. Then the types of angiosperms are monocots and dicots. Monocots are plants which have only one cotyledon. Dicots are plants that have two cotyledons. Monocots have pollen grains with one opening. Monocots have cotyledons with one opening. Okay, pollen grains with one opening. Their leaves have parallel venation. They have scattered vascular bundles. So important is that parallel venation. They have a parallel venation. They have scattered vascular bundles. That means the bundles are scattered. Then fibrous root system. Then carpels are sealed by the cells and hold arrangement of floral parts. Then the structure of the dicot. Dicots are those which are having two cotyledons. That means the cotyledons are the leafy structure of the seed. Okay, swollen leafy structures. They are also known as dicotyles. Their seeds are the seeds have two embryonic leaves. Okay, and the dicots have a distinct taproot system. They have a distinct taproot system. Then the vascular bundles are arranged in a ring. Then the economic and ecological importance of angiosperms. They are the source of food, nutrient, income, etc. Okay, most of the plants are a source of food. They are used as food and habitat for the wildlife. They are used for decoration, and angiosperms are also used in production of medicines, like some medicinal purposes. Sunflower, it controls high blood pressure. Milk thistle, used to treat liver problems. Marigold, used in treating immune response. So this was the end. Okay, done.